Here with us in the studio is Sir David Attenbourough. Welcome to Blue Peter.
Thank you very much.
Some pretty dangerous stuff in that little compilation there. Do you ever get frightened?
No, not really. You ought to be able to know enough about what you're doing not to get too frightened. I get a bit frightened these days, I think, when I have to put on a lot of climbing gear and ropes at 200 feet high and you haven't done the knot before and you jump over the side and you just hope you've done it well, you know.
Right. Which is, of course, one of the things that you had to do for this new series.
That's right.
What attracted you to the series, The Secret Life of Plants?
Oh, partly that I think plants are very interesting and they're the basis of all life, and partly that we've now got new techniques which enable us to speed up time so that you can really see plants behaving in an exciting way.
Absolutely. Well, the programme is full of stunning photography, as David just said, and exotic locations. And here's David with the travelling birdcage plant in California.
This plant is now dead, but within it there is still life.
Did you catch it first time, though?
Well, maybe I wouldn't make the English 11, not at the moment, I don't think. Yeah.
Shots like that must be quite complicated to get, and also some of the others in the series which are spectacular. How do you actually achieve that?
Well, I don't. Of course, it's the cameramen who are the skilled and the heroes of these kind of programmes. And sometimes you do it out in the wild, and sometimes you have to arrange things and make sure that they happen. And particularly with plants, we had to do film out in the wild and film in garages all over the place.
Actually, when you're filming it, though, how does that work? How do you get something to appear almost animated and happen very quickly?
Time-lapse. Well, normal film is you take 25 frames of film a second with the camera, and then you project it at 25 frames a second. But if you took only 1 frame a second and projected it at 25 frames a second, you would speed the whole thing up by 25 times. And if you want to show the movements of plants, which only move very slowly, then you can speed them up in that kind of way.
We've got a clip from the first episode of the series, which has that technique in it. So let's have a look at that, and you can talk us through this. What's this?
Well, this is wild garlic, and this is filmed over several days as they grow and open.
It looks beautiful, doesn't it? How long in that plant's life would that shot have actually been?
It varies, but that last one would, in fact, be only a few hours in the morning, but you show it in only a few seconds.
That's right, incredible. Obviously, you went to many exotic locations, as you always do, but was the whole of this series shot on location?
No. Some of that time-lapse stuff, you have to, if you're filming time-lapse over a period of, say, a week, if you did it out in the jungle, you might get an elephant walking over it, or a shower of rain, or a gale of wind that would blow it down. So you do a lot of these things in controlled circumstances, which in this instance means a garage in Oxfordshire.
And there it is.
Yes, that's right. That was the tank that was built for the giant lily, the water lily of the Amazon, and you had to keep it covered like that so that the leaves would come out in a very humid atmosphere. But in order to make it really realistic, those shots that we took in Oxfordshire were then mixed into shots which were really taken in the Amazon, the true Amazon, as that is.
It's fascinating to get an insight into the behind-the-scenes thing and to actually find out how it's done. But it's not all exotic locations. Some things in this series could be happening in your own back garden.
Of all the woodland plants, this is one of the most aggressive. It waves its shoots agitatedly from side to side, as if feeling for the best way forward. And when a shoot settles on its course, it thrusts ahead relentlessly.
It's amazing, because that time-lapse photography makes the sort of ordinary look almost extraordinary.
Yes, it does.
And that's a really good example of that.
I'll never look at plants in the same way again, really.
Now, we discussed how you sort of speed things up and make the very slow things happen in the plant world happen. But what about things that happen very quickly in nature? How do you film those?
Well, then you do the reverse. Instead of taking 25 frames per second, you may take 200 frames a second. And then you show it at 25 frames a second. That makes it slow down. We didn't have an awful lot of that in this series, but in one sequence we did. This is the squirting cucumber.
Whoa, look at that go.
This
That's
is the
amazing.
squirting cucumber.
That looked very violent. You wouldn't want to be too close to that, would you?
Well, no, the cameraman had to wear goggles to protect himself. Yes.
Really?
Yes,
Are there any other violent plants in the plant kingdom you came across?
Well, there's the Venus flytrap, which catches insects.
A friend of mine used to have one of those in his bedroom.
Well?
So I know all about those. We've got a clip of that. Here it is.
Here comes a meal. Touch the hair, and the trap is sprung. There's now no escape. The beetle's struggles stimulate the plant to close the trap even more tightly. It now produces digestive acids from glands on the inner surface of the leaf, which first kill and then dissolve its victim's body.
Forget lions and tigers and all these other dangerous animals you work with. These things are lethal, aren't they? Did you ever get hurt when you were filming?
What, a nasty nip from a Venus flytrap?
Absolutely.
No, some cactuses actually can really give you some very unpleasant spines, which will stick in you and very difficult to get out of your flesh. Very dangerous.
And what about the camera people? Were they all right?
One of these, in the Amazon, one of them got a shock from a big electric eel, which is quite painful. Well, very painful.
Oh, I can imagine. But luckily, you're here to tell the tale.
That's right.
And so is the cameraman. Good luck with the series.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure. The Private Life of Plants begins on Wednesday.
It's hard enough trying to film a time-lapse in a studio, so imagine trying to film a time-lapse outdoors somewhere like this. There are so many things that could go wrong. The sun can be covered by clouds, it can start raining, and let's face it gets dark every day. Look what happens after just 9 hours, condensed into a few seconds. Absolutely nothing is constant. The gentlest breeze moves everything around, and the light continually flickers, making photography a nightmare. So how do you film bluebells as they flower beneath a canopy of beech leaves, a shot that can only be achieved outdoors? Well, this was the task set for time-lapse specialist Richard Kirby for David Attenborough's Private Life of Plants.
And then bring the camera back up through the branches. It'd be incredibly difficult to recreate a 150-year-old wooden floor in a studio, to actually recreate it accurately. We've got 3 weeks in which to film this, between now and when the bluebells are over, and only one shot at it.
And the answer is to take the studio to the bluebells.
We can build this tent in 2 days. It does actually present other problems, actually filming outside. I mean, for example, if we had a gale or whatever, that might cause problems, a tent blowing down or whatever. And to actually keep the whole thing powered up and working with the temperature changes that you get in a situation like this, there's all sorts of problems that we're going to get. But it's going to be a lot easier filming it out here than it would be to try and do it in the studio.
Having excluded the daylight, Richard must provide an artificial equivalent so the plants grow normally. Grow lights, film lights, camera and tracking system are all controlled by computers.
With time-lapse, you've got to try and imagine how the shot is going to develop over weeks. You know, because it's going to change, especially if you're doing a time-lapse track, from your start shot to the end shot, and you never know quite what the end shot's going to look like.
Okay, that's a great start position. Do you want to set that?
All right, you ready?
Okay, yeah. That looks great. Huh?
One of the things that makes this shot so ambitious is that in addition to all the usual problems, the camera will be tracking up a specially designed rail. After each exposure, the camera will move a step higher so that the final result will appear as one smooth glide into the sprouting branches.
Back. Back a bit more. Back a bit more. That's it. Okay, set that as the end position.
I don't know whether this is going to present us with any surprises. I hope not, actually, because it's the action should be fairly straightforward.
To leave nothing to chance, Richard even wraps a tiny electric blanket around the lens to prevent condensation. One final check of the lights, and the time-lapse can begin.
And again.
Despite the computer coordinating both the camera and the lights, Richard and his assistant take it in turns to check the equipment around the clock. This is the final spring before the series is to be shown on television, so it's the last chance to get the shot. After the first 10 days, the difficult period is over and all is going well. Then, disaster.
What actually happened was that we started to pull focus onto the buds, and then for some mysterious reason, and I still haven't found it out, the track actually stopped. Came in the morning, and the track, the control box for the track was flashing off. And the trouble is, you can't actually continue the shot then. You can't just start the track running again, because in the intervening period, the buds have continued to open, the leaves have continued to emerge from the buds. So we had to start all over again. Had to start the whole thing over again.
Everything had to be ready to go immediately to catch the last of the action. All appeared to have gone well, but only after an agonising wait for the film to return from the labs could Richard be certain of what he'd shot.
You can always think of ways that it could be improved. You can always think, oh, well, I wish I could do that again. I'm always very critical of my own film work anyway. But, so on the whole, I think this rates pretty highly because I'm not being overly critical about it. I think actually it works quite nicely.